Okay, I wanted to give you an overview of project communications management. This is why we need to plan our communications, right? The knowledge area for project communication management crosses three process groups according to the PMBOK. Plan communications management, manage communications in the executing process group, and control in the monitoring and controlling process group. The main idea of project communication management knowledge area is communicating and making information available to stakeholders. So it determines what info, when you provide the info, and how you communicate the information to the different stakeholders. So the first process, plan communications management. From the PMBOK, this is the definition. The process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communications based on stakeholders' information needs and requirements and available organizational assets. So really it identifies how to best communicate with different project stakeholders. So the format, the frequency, what distribution techniques you have. And the output from this process is the communications management plan. So it can be formal or informal. Really, it needs to support all of the project stakeholders. So stakeholders will have different requirements. So who has specific information needs? Certain stakeholders may need something more frequently, while others may need it less frequently, for example. So what are those needs? How will those needs be met? When can they expect the information? And what is the format? So really, communication is the primary job of a project manager. So the inputs for this process, you've got your project management plan, stakeholder register, and really this is the primary input. It provides information about every stakeholder, which you're going to use to identify their needs of information, that kind of thing. Enterprise environmental factors, example here would be what technology is available. Organizational process assets, example here would be lessons learned that may improve your communications, lessons from previous projects that would improve communications on this project. Tools and techniques for this process. Your communications requirements analysis is first. This is the task of determining which stakeholders should receive what information. It includes a consideration of communication channels, which we'll talk about. Then you've got communication technology, your communication model, methods, and meetings. Those are the tools and techniques used for this process. Okay, so we talked about communication channels. Here's the formula. It's really simple. In the numerator you have n, you multiply it by n minus 1, and the denominator is 2. N is the number of stakeholders, so if you had an example with 4 stakeholders, your formula is 4 times 3, which is 12, divided by 2, so you have 6 communication channels. And if you look at the picture on the right, you can count the lines, and there are indeed 6. So any number that you put into this formula, you're going to get the same result. You can count the lines between, you could do 100 stakeholders and figure out what that is, and indeed it will be the number of those lines. So the basic communication model, I'm sure you all have seen this in some sort of interpersonal communication class you might have taken a long time ago. Obviously the sender will encode the message and then transmit it, and then it's decoded by the receiver. The receiver sends some sort of acknowledgement in the form of some feedback to the sender, and the medium here is the method that's used to convey the message.
Noise is going to be anything that interferes with the transmission. Of course, if you remember, the encoding and decoding are subject to the senders and receivers' cultural, societal, personal norms, beliefs, interpretations, language, translations, whatever value systems they hold that may affect the interpretation of the message. So it's important for project managers to be aware of that model. So some of the methods, there's an interactive. Interactive basically is, talking to another person or to a group. It's really the best method to achieve a common understanding. Examples: meetings, phone calls, even instant messaging, webinars. Second method would be push communications. So here the idea is you're pushing the information to your target audience. You're pushing it out. So examples here would be email, reports, voicemail, press releases, mail. Really things that you're not going to have that immediate feedback. And then finally you have pull communications, and these, you're really pulling your audience to the information. So examples here would be intranet or knowledge databases, something like that. So the outputs for this process, according to the PMBOK, main output is the communications management plan. You also have project documents updates. So yeah, just real quick, obviously think about the language. If there's multiple languages involved in the stakeholders, what are the format details? Again, who communicates what, who handles and distributes the information, and what if you've got like confidential information or information that needs to be scrubbed? You can't release it to the general public in a certain format, that type of thing. So those things you need to consider.